Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, 1 minute at a time. In this, our 5th season, we are looking at Joe Johnston's 2011 film, Captain America, The First Avenger. I'm Andy Nelson from the Next Reel Film Podcast.
I'm Pete Wright, and I can't talk now, Andy. I'm speed ramping.
Today we are talking about Minute 99, which begins with Steve seeing the Valkyrie preparing for takeoff and ends with Peggy telling Steve to wait. Back on the show, it is Nate, Bubbawheat Withrow. Hello, Nate.
Where he's going, he won't need roads.
Ain't that the truth?
Okay, that was good. That was good.
Okay, so this is the moment where Steve sees the Valkyrie taking off and starts charging after it across this battlefield that suddenly appears right in front of him with massive numbers of Hydra troopers and Allied soldiers all fighting. And Steve runs through the action, taking out various Hydra troopers as he goes. And then, as Pete alluded to, when he leaps over the equipment, everything goes into a speed ramp as he swings across the chain. This is the second time in the film that Joe Johnston has moved into his speed ramp, which feels like such a modern tech thing to include in a period or a film that's kind of meant to feel a little period. How does that play for the two of you?
Guess first, please. I have thoughts.
Well, I feel like this minute overall really felt like the most. It felt the most disconnected for me, where he really felt like the background was a CGI matte painting more than anything else. And it does, and especially whenever you're like breaking it down like this, it feels almost comedic and convenient. It's almost like it's one step below him, like just stepping on, like walking over the helmets of the Hydra soldiers as he's swinging across on this chain.
Oh, how much I would love to have seen that, though. That would have been like James Bond jumping on the across the back of the crocodiles.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. And yeah, I think that's really true. The chain doesn't seem to swing right. Like it takes him up and over and down. Is it on rails? Like, is he on some sort of a pulley system?
It's a roller coaster rail that it's on.
It really
lifting
is.
Him up
it feels
and
like a roller coaster rail. And then when it comes down, like the shot as he lands back on the ground with the blue splody beams behind him and all of the lights. I think the lights are generally cool, but he feels like he's like just not in that warehouse anymore. It's just Steve is not there. And you can really, really tell as fast as he's running, he is not present with all of those other things. And I struggle with that too. This feels like the B-moviest minute that we've come across yet.
Yeah, it feels, the speed ramp feels weird to me as he's swinging on the cable. Like, I think it's amplified by the fact that all of those shots look so much more CG composite anyway. And, I know we have a lot of issues with the pay for special effects artists, so I don't want to put it on them. I just feel like the concept of, or like how they were trying to figure out how to put it all together to make it work. Some of these things just ended up not blending properly. And, probably they spent so much time and energy focusing on puny Steve looking correct that by the time they got to this point in the film, they're probably like, you know what, as long as things are moving on screen, the audience will be with us and it'll be okay. But it ends up feeling a little fakey most of this.
Well, and is that the question? Like, is it okay? Like, things are moving on screen. It's just 1 minute. Maybe it really is okay. And it's only an artifact of a movie by minute podcast that we notice this stuff.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I noticed this in the theater when I was watching this in 2011. It ends up looking pretty fakey and hokey. I don't know. And it's a fine line between, was Joe Johnston trying to kind of make it look, a little separated from reality and a little comic booky? Was that the intention?
This, I don't know. That feels a little overgenerous to me.
Yeah.
On this particular shot.
Well, yeah, it's a little frustrating, but I guess the point is what we're trying to show is Steve is using his super soldier skills to take out Hydra troopers, his super strength to leap up and over and swing on this chain, and his super speed to run really fast and run after the Valkyrie as it's taxiing down the runway. I guess, in the scope of what we're meant to have here, of a moment for our hero to be pursuing our villain and doing it with kind of that Captain America gung-ho attitude. I guess that's really what we're meant to get out of this, right?
Well, that, and there are some things he can't catch on foot.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's also kind of showing us a limitation. He might be better than every other human soldier in that facility, but he's not catching that plane.
Yeah.
Does it bother either of you that as he's running toward it, I mean, it seems like he just can't catch it, but I can't help but feel like those propellers should be also blowing him backward. It's like right behind 8 giant propellers. I don't know.
Yeah, it probably should. It doesn't. It didn't. It doesn't bug me.
Oh, the propellers are just for show, anyways. It's powered by Tesseract energy.
Right. He's not running behind the two engines.
That's really funny. There are propellers, and there are also 2 engines. Like, what propels this thing really?
Well, as we saw, when he leaps up and grabs the chain, you can actually see Schmidt's coupe parked there. Now, I don't know why Schmidt has his coupe parked on the end of the airstrip, the inner mountain airstrip, whatever we're calling this thing. I don't know why it's parked here.
Well, like I said, that's how he got from the engine, because he went down to get his car, and then he drove his car to the airstrip.
That's exactly it.
Gadzooks!
Well, it's funny. There's so much stuff here that I, for a minute, because I mean, when Schmidt or when Steve leaps up and jumps onto the chain, we see there are all sorts of trucks, and there's a ton of gear and stuff up here. I was like, what? This thing is huge. Maybe the intention was to put all of this stuff on the plane. Like maybe they were going to take it and go land somewhere else. I don't know.
That's a really interesting point, that maybe there was some sort of a camping trip or something they were planning for. Some sort of a team building exercise.
They were going to go up to the lakes and do some trust falls.
Some trust falls and a ropes course. I'm sure there was a ropes course. And
that's why this chain is here.
Yeah.
It's getting them ready for the ropes course.
One of those inflatable things that you put on the lake and you sit on and somebody jumps on it and launches you. Oh, they were going to have such fun were it not for Cap.
Ruining all the fun. It is a true tragedy.
Alas.
All right. Well, nobody's shooting at Steve for some reason. Either that or he's just super fast. Everyone's just fighting and apparently getting overtaken because that coupe that had essentially been right in the middle of the war, surrounded by a whole bunch of people fighting and vehicles and gear, suddenly Phillips and Carter, who must have been just hot on Steve's tail. I don't know how fast they got here, but they obviously were right behind him, and they grabbed this coupe because now they're pulling up to it. As Pete, you alluded to the fact that Steve can't catch the plane, and he stops running, and lo and behold, Phillips pulls up next to him.
Yeah.
How does this play? Do you like the way that this element of the scene plays here?
Realistically, it might not make sense, but as a movie watcher, it's just so great. Whenever they pull up, it's just like, yes, it's like just that moment that's it's just great seeing them pull up in the Schmidt-mobile.
Do you like the car?
Oh, it's a gorgeous car too. And it's something that's, we've seen several times over the course of the movie. That's like the perfect one to use in this moment, even though it has the Hydra hood ornament.
I think the other thing about this from a character perspective is that this is the final sort of pinnacle moment of our time between the colonel and the captain, right? Like we've seen their relationship change, and finally, as we talked about earlier in the week, how we now have the colonel following the captain, leading him into the up to thousands and thousands of feet in altitude into the mountain battle, and now he literally is the enabler of the final action sequence, right? The Colonel is. And I think that's really, I mean, that's great. And it has kept Tommy Lee Jones in the movie to the bitter end, which is fantastic. Like he wasn't just a stunt cast, like he actually had a role all the way through the final action sequence, which I'm here for. I think it was great. So to have him help and to have him so ably be able to drive this nonsense car is a real tour de force.
Well, let's just say he looks more natural behind the wheel than Toby Jones did as Zola.
Right, right. That is true.
Zola looked like he was being devoured by the car. He was so small. Oh, man. And, of course, Peggy's in the back seat looking as lovely as ever. Although I will say, there's a shot after Schmidt notices them in his rearview mirror, he sees the car coming up behind him. We get a shot as they're driving past him, or driving past the camera, and the shot looks a little funky. I mean, it's clearly a shot that's designed, probably the car is just sitting there. If anything, maybe a couple grips are like moving it or something. But largely it just kind of moves past the camera. And Peggy, like, her hair is blowing in the wind, but there's something about the way that she looks that just seems really unnatural, almost as if she was like CG'd in after the fact or something. And as I was watching it, I'm like, did they shoot this without her and then realize they wanted her in it, and so just kind of added her into the backseat?
They forgot she was supposed to be there.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just me, but when I see that shot, it starts at around 35 seconds into this minute. It just, like, she just looks a little funky the way that her face moves in there. I don't know. It's just me.
I actually would argue that they all look funky, but hers looks the most funky because it's not obscured by helmets at all, right? Like Cap and the Colonel have helmets on, and I feel like they're artificial by design. She's artificial, largely by art. And I think that's the thing that strikes me.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Like, if there's a wind machine that's blowing her hair back, it's not going to affect them by any stretch. So, yeah.
Yeah, that feels very much like an added shot. Like, because the rest of the shots, when the car, the rest of them are clearly, as you say, they're like grip handled. And we have a lot of close-ups of the actual machinery, of the flames coming out of the pipes on the side, and that nice sort of crash zoom right before Cap stands up on the seat. But those aren't CG shots, like the backgrounds obviously are, but that's really Cap climbing around on a car that they're making look like it moves fast. But it doesn't look like any of the characters have been modeled in any way to me. Like, it just looks like a backplate. That they're against.
The other shot that looks a little funky, but it's also probably digitally modified. It's after Colonel Phillips pushes the big red button with the big red H on it.
God, I'm glad he knows what that means.
Or the big red K on it. Sorry, it's a K. Well, it says Gefahr nicht drucken underneath it, which
it means don't drive drunk.
It means danger, do not press.
Yeah, exactly. Which is really funny, which I guess it's kind of one of those jokes that you see in like a Looney Tunes movie is what it feels like to me. It's like, don't push this button. And then they push it. And it's like,
and it feels like the Men in Black car, which, that's the Tommy Lee Jones, the big red button in his, Agent K's car.
Well, it's a big K on the button. There you go.
Big K on the button.
It's all coming together. Together. But that shot right after he pushes it, it feels so digitally modified, like when it rockets them forward. Just like
I know. I don't get a sense of it going faster. I mean, like, as a viewer, I know that it is going faster, but it doesn't feel like it's going faster as I watch it.
It only feels faster because of the shot outside of it, like when we're on the landing or on the airstrip, and you see the Valkyrie go overhead, and you see the thing like shooting like past us faster than the Valkyrie. That's the only shot that really tells me, oh, this thing is moving super fast now.
And all their shoulders.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and over their shoulders.
that makes me think fast.
The other thing is, like, when we get that long shot down this runway, we are so far away from where we started.
Yes.
How long is this thing? Like, we're just, jokingly saying that we're 3,500 feet up the mountain, but I feel like I feel like they've already gone several miles. I mean, the speeds they're going, like, I don't understand. I really don't get it.
Well, remember that this is the 40s, and fast in the 40s is not the same as fast in the 2000s.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
Because fast was a lot slower back then.
Right.
Okay, I have done the absolute bare minimum of research that I could possibly do. As in, I did one Google search, and that search was, how wide is a mountain? And the answer is, mountain ranges usually stay between 2.5 and 3 miles high and 75 to 150 miles wide. So do that math. How wide would it be at near the top? And you'll know. It's probably several miles.
It has to be several miles. I mean, this is a huge plane that needs to get the speed for it to take off. And so I guess what it is like there's a base. Okay, so this is how I'm picturing it. At the base of this mountain, not this mountain where the plane is right now, but at the base of, we'll just call it Hydra Mountain, right? Mm-hmm. It's like Witch Mountain. And this is their escape from Witch Mountain that they're doing right here. At the base of Hydra Mountain, we have the entrance, and you go into the entrance, and there's a lot of stuff on the ground floor, and then there's like one little elevator that goes up to Schmidt's lab, which is 4,000 feet up. That's how high we're guessing his lab is to get that great view. Somewhere in between is a stopping point that has the main part of the hangar where people actually do things. And then the rest of the base is essentially this miles-long airstrip that cuts through the mountains. I guess we'd have to go horizontally across the range, not like right out the front of the mountain, but across it. So we're cutting through that 75 to 100 miles of mountain range. And then where the Valkyrie pops out has to be like many miles down at the other end of the mountain range.
I don't know much about math, but I have to give you some important numbers.
Oh dear. Okay.
So you told me that it was 540 feet wide.
540 feet wide.
So just so you know, like the width, the wingspan of a Boeing 747 is 195 feet.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
You know that.
Well, we talked about this when we first saw the Valkyrie. You might not have.
Remember,
you might have been.
I wasn't there.
That's right.
I wasn't there. So let me just
do it.
Get all this out of my face. The landing or the takeoff distance of a Boeing 747 has been determined to be 10,450 feet. And so the runways for a 747 have to be 12,000 feet long. So, And
how wide is the plane?
195 feet.
Okay, so that's about 61 feet per foot of wingspan.
So now 61 times 540 is 32,940 feet. Divided by 5280 is 6.23 miles.
Okay, look at that.
Math.
That fits into 75 to 100 foot mountain range.
Yes, it does. I think it's just a giant 7-mile hole drilled laterally through a mountain range.
Wow. Do you think they use Tesseract energy to do
Drills?
this?
The Tesseract drill?
The Tesseract drill. We haven't seen that yet. Seriously. Oh my gosh.
That's fantastic.
And they've lit the whole thing too. That's another important note. They've run electricity through the entire thing.
That's so many recessed light bulbs.
And a lot of lights. They could have just had a few lights here and there, but no, they have lights running through the entire thing. I like to think that there are a few Hydra agents whose job is to perpetually walk through the entirety of the airstrip just to make sure that birds haven't flown in and are roosting on it, and make sure they're sweeping up all the bat guano piles that they're building up, trying to keep it clean so that it doesn't cause problems when the Valkyrie takes off.
Well, they just have the little wooden owls to scare off the birds.
Right, of course, Hydra would have thought of that. They would all be branded, however, with a little Hydra logo on them. Everything's logoed.
Yeah, as we've seen, they love putting that logo on everything. All right. Well, we're getting to this point in this minute where they're getting closer and closer to the Valkyrie because they pushed the do not push button on Schmidt's coupe, and now it is rocketing toward it. And this is where Captain America is getting ready to jump off of it heroically onto the plane. You've got a serious Colonel Phillips at the wheel, and Peggy, as Steve is about to jump off, she tells him to wait. And that's where our minute ends. What is she going to say? We won't know until next time.
Never know.
No, we will know. It'll just be next time.
She's going to say, wait, I need to tell you about your car's extended warranty.
Oh, man. All right. Well, we'll be back tomorrow with another minute. In the meantime, Nate, thank you so much. And tell everybody about where they can find what you're up to on the internets.
Sure. Well, I have a bunch of different projects, and I have one more that I haven't talked about. I do another podcast, which is currently comes out every other Friday, and it's a music comedy podcast called Lyrical Innuendo. Me and a co-host take a song, and we basically dig into the lyrics and see if there's any hidden meaning in them. Most of the time we cover songs that have some sort of sexual hidden meaning to them. We also do, drug references. And we also do, things outside of that. We try to do it in a funny way. And that's a lot of fun. It's very short. And we cover a lot of different, musical genres, popular ones, lesser known ones too.
Have you found some fun ones, like some surprising ones?
Well, honestly, I think one of my favorite ones, which is one that's, I kind of came up with a really far out there interpretation, is Cake's The Distance. And I kind of
dying to know at this point where this is going.
If you want to know it, you have to listen to the episode. I can't remember exactly where I went, but I know that's one of my favorite episodes that we've done, because I just kind of came up with this whole story that fit really well with the lyrics, and it was something that my co-host just blew his mind, and it's like, oh yeah, I could kind of see it that way.
Oh, that's funny.
Awesome.
That is too funny. Well, check that out along with everything else that Nate's putting out there, everybody. You can find the link in the show notes, and we'll be back tomorrow for minute 100, the big 100, hitting the 3 digits. So Pete, thanks as always.
I have to tell you something. Tomorrow I'm going to be in a dark place.
Okay.
That's all. That's the whole thing. I just want to set it up. I'm going to be in a very dark place.
Well, with that, until next time, true believers.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM. Engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is Spread the News by Anthony Vega, and this season's show art is by Winston Yabo. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, consider doing that for this show.